Welcome back, everyone. To close the day, we're going to have a new thing. We're going to have the first panel at SINFO 28. And in this panel, we have three amazing panelists and a distinguished moderator. So we have António Afonso, who is a front-end engineer at Facebook, Diogo Mónica, who is a co-founder and president at Anchorage, and André Nogueira, who is a site reliability engineer at Google. They're all alumni from IST, and to moderate the session, no man better than Rogério, our president. Thank you, everyone, for accepting our invitation, and I hope everyone in the audience enjoys this panel. And without further ado, please, Professor, take it away, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Baltazar. Thank you for your invitation. Welcome to you all. So good afternoon to the panelists, to Antonio, to André, and to Diogo. And so I will propose that we, in the next few minutes, we just take an informal conversation about your career, about your thoughts, about your dreams, about what you think about about IST, for instance, is our school. And so I just start for a simple question. I think, I don't know, just a small question shortly to each one of you. Antonio, when have you finished when have you leave IST?
Yeah, I finished in 2008.
And at 2008, and André? 2009, and Diogo?
I don't actually know the answer to that. I moved to the US halfway through my PhD in 2011. I ended up finishing it. But...
yeah, okay, that's good. So 2011 is your reference date, is that so?
2029 was the master's when I finished it, and then 2011 was when I flew to San Francisco. So two references.
Okay. So I just searched for a simple question. So I leave IST, or I finished my master. At the time, it was not called master. It was a 5-year degree 30 years ago. It was in 91. So what, in your opinion, are the difference between what you get from IST in 2000 until 2008 or 9 or 10 and the difference to the 30 years ago competitions and the way in which IST give the skills to the students? So just an informal opinion. Antonio, do you think that we are at the same place? Do we have a way in the right direction or not? So just your open opinion about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think like a lot of the skills I learned, at Technic is they're super useful to me on a daily basis. I think the fundamentals are really the thing that is the most important. I'm not sure if this is still the case right now, but I learned programming at Technica using Scheme, and I remember right on the first weeks we started learning functional programming, and we very used to use functions as first-class citizens, and also recursion, and that frame of mind, and just start thinking that way very early is super useful. And I do quite a bit of interviews, and a lot of people still struggle with those basic concepts. And it's interesting because at the time, I don't think it was that common for people to use functions as first-class citizens. But right now, it's really the bread and butter. That's really how everyone works. So I'm very happy to have had that concept. And the other thing is I learned at Technica is super rigorous thinking, and also the analytical mindset. That is also something I really appreciate. And even when I compare to my colleagues from other universities, that is definitely the thing we shared from.
Okay, good. Diogo, your opinion on the same question.
I think all my teachers made a point to tell me that back in their day, programming was done with punch cards. So this was a constant story all across Technique. Every single teacher used to tell me this, you don't know how lucky you are to actually have a compiler and to be able to debug in seconds. And so I think that is one major difference from 30 years ago, is the fact that they're no longer punched cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's a completely different world. I think we are learning skills that we didn't have to learn back then. And I think we appreciate a lot more skills to this day that are incredibly important in startups, incredibly important in the world that 30 years ago we didn't focus a lot on. I do think that the presentation skills and the ability of actually just reasoning from first principles, some of them are common, some of them are not. And in this world and age of the internet comes first, there's quite a few skill sets that weren't really relevant back then, and now they are.
Yeah. Okay, André, your opinion on the same question, and what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting and useful that the course is actually computer engineering, because I got to learn everything from, I had classes from the very beginning, or even how does the components themselves work, all the way up to, as Afonso was saying, to very high level languages like Scheme. And this really helped me to reason about computing in a way that I think wouldn't have been possible if I was just learning Java or Python or whatever the language of the day is. And so, and this also opened my eyes to everything that's out there. So when I joined Technico, I knew a bit of programming, but it was all self-taught. So I had no structure, no concrete understanding. I didn't know what I was doing. I just made some stuff show up on the screen, but not really understanding how that worked. And having all those classes really made me understand the full stack, from the very logic principles all the way to the very high level languages.
So I just add one more question to you, André, and then I go around the table again. So how have you reached, you are in Google now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was your pathway to Google when you finished? Because we have António is on Facebook, you are, Diogo is the founder of Anchorage. So I just want to have the perception of what was your pathway until you reached the point in which you are now. Can you?
Yeah, so I came directly to Google, and it during my studies, and I did some freelance work online in freelance websites where people posted jobs.
You just finished Technical with Google in your mind, was that so or no?
Yeah, so I actually did an internship during my degree, and then I got an offer to start right after I finished my degree.
Okay, that's enough for now. We'll come back to this topic again. So, António, how have you reached Facebook?
Yeah, it was like a longer path than André. So I actually worked in Portugal for years before the degree, but once I finished, I knew what I wanted to do, which is like web development. At the time, from the engineering title did not exist. But I also knew that in Portugal, there are not that many positions there. And it was actually André suggested me to, hey, why don't you apply to this job position at Opera Software? It was in Norway. And I was like, I mean, it's like outside of the country. Why would they
just apply? Just send a
Yep. So that's what I did. I actually sent to a bunch of different places. I sent to there. I also sent to a company in Boston. Yeah, I believe that was that. And OutSystems as well. Then I got offers from all of them, and then I decided to go to Opera just because they're internet-based company. So I moved to Norway. I was there for a few years. Did some really interesting stuff. But then I had the opportunity to move to Berlin, work at Nokia. I worked there, and then a few folks reached out to me with a really interesting job here in the Bay Area, and I was like, yep. I started doing that and started working remotely. Then I moved here, and then after a bunch, I did work in different places here. Even did a startup with a couple of friends of mine. That was really interesting. We're not able to get Series A, unfortunately. And then at that time, I just applied to a bunch of different jobs, and there's some friends of mine from Facebook at the time we were working on React, and React, it was not public yet, but we used to discuss that quite a bit because I was also working on JavaScript frameworks. And when they heard that I was actually looking for a new place, they said, oh, you need to join Facebook so you can work with us there. So they referred me. Okay. And then I interviewed, and like I did to a bunch of other places, but I decided to join Facebook in the end.
That is very interesting on your answers. I will come back to that and why I do think there is a huge difference between your answers and the answers which I gave if you ask me the same question. But I will come back to that. So, Diogo, tell us a little bit about Anchorage. And
yeah, it's kind of funny. The path to Anchorage starts out.
That's
right. It's in 2010 during my PhD. I went to the US to give a presentation on security and a topic, and there were people from Google and Facebook in the audience. And then at the end of the conference, they came in, asked me to come a few months out of my PhD to work for them. I interviewed, got offers from Facebook and Google, and said to myself, I do not want to go work at a big company where I'll be a drop in an ocean of other people, and I would really want to go to a way smaller company. And so what I ended up doing was I joined a company called Square. I was employee 40 at Square. It was the Series A company at the time, founded by the founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. I was going to work on security. There was only one other person on the security team. And so they flew me out of Lisbon to San Francisco in 2011. And, I led the security team there for 4 years, then ended up moving over to Docker, security team at Docker for 3 years. And then I ended up founding Anchorage 3.5 years ago because, I've been working on private key security and distributed systems for 15 years at this point. And so it's just the perfect role for me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Very interesting. So let me tell you the most interesting thing that I found in your answers, which is, I would say that, let's say 30 years ago, or by that time, it was quite a different world, as you pointed out. We don't have mobile phones, and we have when I entered in technical, the computer was VAX VMS, which is something that occupies, I don't know, 300 square meters or so to an so. But when we reach to the end of our degree, I would say that the thing that we were most afraid by that time is that afraid of going to the job market, and we were not good enough, or we are not well prepared, or we don't know exactly what should be expected from us as young people with 22 or 23 years entered in the job market. So I understood by your answers that you have absolutely no afraid of that. You just go on. So I said, I like to go to Google, and I like to go to Facebook or to Square. I like to be in a small company. Or am I reading right your answers? Was that so? You just was a smooth transition to the job market.
It's just a totally different world. I think we recognize that we're just lucky to have been born when we were. Right now, it is an engineer's world. Software is eating the world. That's what Mark Andreessen said, and it's absolutely true. Engineers add the most value to companies right now and to all the businesses. Every single business right now is becoming a tech business. Every single company is becoming a tech company. And so what they need to become tech company are tech people, and engineers are one of the core of tech people. So our designers and product managers and so on and so forth. But that's what's happening. We are a hot commodity right now. And so it's just absurd, but any of us on this call and, in about 3 hours can get 5 job offers, and job offers with like amazing compensation packages anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, but
that's very different from 30 years of the world. 30 years ago.
30 years ago, we are much fewer than we are now, and we also have job offers. But that was not the question. So the question is that we spent 5 years closed inside technical, and then suddenly I remember that when I finished my degree, I just discussed my thesis, and I asked myself, what now? Wow, I'll be crushed in the world, you see? And now I feel that, I think it's also a generation gap, because you don't have afraid of that. It's just, okay, I just go to Finland or to San Francisco or to doing whatever, because I know that I can do it. So am I right in this interpretation of what you are saying?
I would say so. You know, it's a global world. We get to see the things that we work on are very clearly desired.
Is that so?
It's also, traveling is a lot easier these days and a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, but okay, but I'll come back. So, okay, António, you are about to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, it's definitely, I think it's easier than it was like 30 years ago, just because you have so much more information right now. And it's like Diogo's saying, you know, you can quickly do a lot of stuff on the internet, right? Like, okay, let me schedule a flight. Let me do everything online, even for the embassy. Let me find a hotel, or, oh, okay, so I'd like to work at this company. Let me search on Google what people have been doing, like how people go there. Like, is this a good place to work? I don't know. You can go to Glassdoor and figure that out. So I do think, I wouldn't personally say that like we have less fear than people from 30 years ago. I just think there's less risk, just because, or you could more quickly reduce the risk, just because it's easy to have access to so much information. Like before it was like, it's literally like you're saying, right? Well, I'm going there and God knows what's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And now, like, we can talk with people, compare so much experiences. So I do think it's like much easier than it's like really what Diogo is saying is like, we're really lucky.
Very interesting what you say, António, because it's a question also of perception of risk. Yeah, we have a huge perception of risk, which not probably now is not the case. So now I have a question for you, André. I am trying to balance the times between you, so you are a few minutes behind Diogo and António. And so my question is a little bit complex. Okay, so you also, and we all agree that the world has changed a lot in these 20, 30, 40 years, which is the question is do you feel that the skills that, for instance, you get from technical follow this huge change of the world, or should we do different things? What is your perception on that? I mean, my question is, the world has changed around, the perception of risk, the way, the easiness in which we go from one place to another, in which we reach information. But do you feel that the skills that a university gives to the students have followed at the same speed this change of the world, or no? Or is it good, or should we change faster or not? What is your opinion on that? It's a very open question.
Yeah, so for the technical part of it, I think the goal of a degree of a university should be not to change. Like the languages that are in use today are very different from the languages that are in use 10 years ago. So if Technico only taught people how to program on those languages, that's not very useful. But how to learn and how computers work in general, not just in any language, makes it so that people can learn, like if the next language is being invented today and it's in use next year, people can adapt because they have that basis, let's say. I think thinking at my professional career and the kind of things that I did, I think the part that was a bit missing was more on the soft skill side, like how to communicate, how to do presentations, how to convince other people. Like I want to do a project, how do I convince other people that this is a good idea? What are the do's and don'ts? And the other part that I don't think was discussed at all was around the ethics of computing, because computers can do more and more, but that doesn't mean that they should do all the things that they're capable of. And it's like that line, they spend so much time when wondering if they could that they didn't think about whether they should. And that is across many areas of the industry is becoming a more and more. I think that that's going to be very, very important for the near and the long-term future.
Okay. António and Diogo, we just opened this topic if you want to say something on that.
Yeah, I echo what André has said, and just, like languages I'm using right now is like Python, C++, TypeScript, which is basically JavaScript. And I never used any of those languages while I was doing the degree. And what really helps me is like I was saying before, like all the fundamentals, like computer science fundamentals, but also like the computer engineering side. For what I think might be missing, again, I completely agree with Andrea. I just want to offer perhaps like a different perspective. Is I think like when we work, and I understand why you do that, but like when we work technical, like people, like teachers always want like not the perfect answer, but it's like, like the perfect, like a really well-designed architecture, really well-designed system. Everything needs to be by the book. Everything needs to be unit tested. You need to use the best practices everywhere. And, I do think that's great when you're working in an environment where all the requirements and things do not change at all. They're pretty much static. Then you can come up with that. But, in reality, things don't work that way, right? Like the world is a bit chaotic. Things are constantly changing. So I think it's going to be really hard. Like the way we work right now is more like, you have an idea for a project. You're probably going to do like an MVP, like a minimum viable product, because you want to test if your ideas actually make sense or not, right? Instead of before investing a ton of time into this huge project. So what you do is just like, what are the core functionality? Just put it out there as fast as you can, like, I don't know, maybe a month or two. You do this, and then you start getting feedback. Okay, it's like, does this even click with people? There's market fit for this or not? Or how are people using the product? And then that will inform you, and then you're just going to iterate fast, so you can come up with a good product. And I don't think it's possible to do that fast iteration if you always need to, okay, let's make sure we have unit tests for everything. Let's make sure we still have the perfect design or architecture. Because imagine like you push out the first MVP, right? And then, oh, actually what people really want is this, not that. Like, how are you going to add a feature to the product that was not, that doesn't really fit with the architecture you came up with in the first place, right? So you can rewrite everything if you want, right? And rewrite all the unit tests, but that's going to take you like another 2 months. No, right? So basically what people do is just hack it up, right? And I think here is the difference. So like there's multiple different ways of hacking something in. And there's what I see a lot is just people go there and they just, they just make a mess of the code base, and eventually, yes, you will need to rewrite because it's starting to be impossible to reason with the code. However, there are definitely techniques to do this in a better way, right? Like how do I isolate and hack, right? Because you can do isolated hacks, and also like add a lot of. I usually don't write documentation on the code, but if I'm hacking, I write like sometimes the entire page. Explaining exactly why it's there, because it's very common. You're going to read a piece of code. It's weird code. Is like, why is this the way it is? This doesn't make any sense. And then sometimes people, let me remove this. This is not needed. And then everything goes to hell. So I think it's very different when you're writing code. You know exactly what you're doing. If you're hacking, like that is really important. Learn how to do that. And that is just, I think that's actually missing. Like from a software engineering point of view in the course, like how hack responsibly in a way that things can be sustainable for.
I would just jump in and say maybe taking a step back. The three main things that I've learned in the university, and I'm going to leave my PhD on the side, but the first 5 years, I've learned three most important things. One of them is how to reason from first principles. The second one, and Technical is really good at this, is how to deal with adversity. And the third thing is bootstrap network of friends, coworkers, and acquaintances. That's it. Those are the three things that are important. Okay. Every single technical component doesn't matter. As long as you're a curious person, you will pick it up. But these three things are still relevant in today's world the same way that they were 30 years ago. I think that's the most important three steps of the university.
Very good. So, Diogo, okay, very good, very good. I like your opinion on that. mainly the part of dealing with adversity is quite is quite well. So just we are reaching the final part of our talk. I have now a different pathway of questions for you, and then maybe we will leave a couple of minutes to see if anyone wants to make questions. And so Diogo, you have now a considerable experience with in your career, all of you. So if I ask you to give an advice to our colleagues that are now entering in the market job, so what can you see? What are the most common errors that people do when they start their professional life? What can you say about that? What have you learned with your own pathway since you start with Anchorage? If you want to share with us your opinion on that.
Well, specifically for the Portuguese market, I feel like the biggest mistake that people do is to go work for a consultancy. That seems to be the practice here. You know, that doesn't make any sense to anyone. But I would say that
just share with us, why do you think that? I know why do you think that, but just share. Just go a little bit deeper on that idea. I think it's very
rare. I have never seen anyone go to a consultancy and actually learn the real world. Consultancies are a weird, distorted version of the world where everything that they're doing is they are not necessarily benefiting. The products that they're building are not out in the real market. They're being paid for by people with a lot of money, project that they have, and failure is an option. And so since failure is an option and they just want to charge dollars by the hour, the incentives are not aligned for you to build something good, and therefore the incentives are not aligned for you to grow, for you to learn, and you get stuck in some weird corner in some weird language that nobody else is going to use. So the advice that I give to people is optimize for growth and uncomfortable. You have to get yourself into an uncomfortable position, and the best way to optimize for growth is to join the earliest stage company that you can see around. If you are a person that needs structured environment and to learn specific skill sets, then maybe you join a Google and a Facebook because you learn about like the structured portions of the things that you need to about engineering. But then you should, as quickly as possible, go to an early stage company because that's where you're actually going to wear so many hats, roll up your sleeves, have to do everything, and that's going to maximize growth. So that's my advice: maximize growth as early as possible.
Okay, very well. Thank you. André, you want to share your opinion with us about this topic?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, like how did we end up where we are? And I think António also mentioned, I wasn't really thinking about outside of Portugal, but nowadays there's no risk. So yeah, my advice would be to try. Like I myself would not have tried if I was not contacted by Google, because I would just assume, well, I'm never going to get hired. Why would I even bother? They're not going to even look at my CV. But just by pure luck, I was contacted by them, and here I am today. So there's actually like doing internships. I started by doing an internship during summer while I was studying. And nowadays, for any big companies, as we mentioned, like the risk is very small, and it's very easy to understand how to do things, what the steps are. And don't just stay with a company that's close to your home or something like that. And just like many people do Erasmus, just try to do for an internship outside, and preferably at even different companies, like one summer in one company, another summer at another, because then you're also exposed. Is for me, what kind of environment is better for me.
Okay, thank you, André. So now the final tour. So António, what is your biggest challenge for the next years as a professional?
Wow, the biggest challenge. Maybe working from home, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're transitioning.
I think for 10 years, for you not to go to the COVID stuff and that stuff. So just biggest conceptual change that you have.
I don't know. Like, it's not COVID related. Like Facebook went a big part of the company just to be remote, and that definitely brings a lot of new challenges that did not exist before.
Sorry, António. I miss your answer. I miss your sound. Can you repeat?
Yeah. Yeah, what I was saying, like, this is not, working from home is not going to be COVID related only moving forward. Like half the company is probably going to be working remotely, and there's like a ton of different challenges. As an example, like a lot of the things I've been working right now is focusing on how to have like a really good developer environment when you are working from home, just because the lag is completely different when you're accessing remote systems. So that's really like moving forward. That's what we want to do, and also how like there's a lot of projects you can just not run them on your local laptop for multiple different reasons. And it's like, okay, how can we have like really good developer environments in a remote way, and people not being like at the office where there's really good connection while working from home. I do think that's like moving forward is probably like the biggest like next challenge right now, at least for me.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Diogo, same question for you.
Yeah, my job these days is very different than my job was 10 years ago. I spend very little time actually doing anything technical in nature. 50% of my time is hiring and growing a team. We are doubling in size this year. We are just under 100 people at Anchorage, and we're probably going to be 200. So that's a massive challenge. Internationalization, so thinking about expansion into Asian markets, South American markets, that's always a big deal. And also thinking about, the future of the financial market, crypto, which is my space, and what Anchorage does. We are the first federally chartered bank in the United States for cryptocurrencies. And so we have a platform that allows institutions to build products in crypto, really thinking ahead of what this actually means for the traditional finance world and how the pieces are going to land so that I can plan and strategize around where Anchorage should position itself. That's something that is it's hard. It's hard to predict the future. So something that I spend quite a bit of time thinking about. So my job right now is just 100% different than it was 10 years ago. And, you have to learn along the way.
Okay, very well. Thank you, Diogo. So maybe for these last 2 minutes, I will accept one question by the audience. I don't know how can I do that. Maybe by the main stage. Okay, I don't know if anyone wants to make a question to our panel. I don't see. Okay, I have lots of comments here, but no question. So, okay, so we are just, okay, so we are about to finish now. We are on time, so thank you to you all. I have just, by the way, I have one last question. This is just for a short answer, right? All of you, you have careers, international careers in different places, but you still keep a little bit of the bond with technical. Why is that? Yeah, but for instance, you are here with me. That is a proof of that bond.
I'll jump in. I think it goes back to a little bit what I said. So personally, I spent a lot of my time in Tagspark, and when I did networks, and then I obviously went time in Alameda and time in Tagspark. And I do have to say that the network of bond of friends that I've created there, maybe because Tagspark is so isolated that you don't really have anybody else to interact with. You have to stay there. But it was forged in fire. Yeah, the bond that we shared and the bond that we've created, I still have today. Some of my best friends come from that. And so that amazing, set of people focused on the same goals in Tagspark, isolated, like working on the same things, that friendship bond is what keeps coming back. The other thing is, I'm opening offices in Portugal, and so I'm actively recruiting. And so this is also obviously very beneficial for me to learn and to be exposed, because I would love to obviously grow as much as I can Anchorage in Portugal, because the technical talent is just excellent, as we can see on this call. And so taking advantage of that is definitely something that I want to do for us.
Okay, thank you, Diogo. António and André, do you want to?
Yeah, I really love like my 5 years at Technical. Like, and as you can see, if it was not for Technical, I don't think I would have had the opportunities that I had today. So there's that connection, and if I can, I'll also love to give back to the community. Through, I don't know, like, you can, anyone watching this, if they want to know how to get an internship at Facebook, or if you want to get like advice from a career tech point of view, like, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy.
Okay, thank you, António. André, you have the final word.
Yeah, I echo what they said. Like I say at Alameda, but it's the same thing that Diogo mentioned. Like we spend so much time working on projects and studying that it's exactly the same experience. And SINFO specifically has a very special place in my heart, since I was also the coordinator for the 15th SINFO in 2008. To see that the event is still going and to have the opportunity to be here.
Okay, thank you. So just to finish, don't forget that technically is your alma mater and your home forever. And so thank you for being in this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.